Hey everyone, welcome to the Leader's Edge, your path to personal and leadership growth. I'm your host, Steve Steele, alongside my co-host and partner in leadership, Ernie Dacumos. As certified speakers, coaches, and corporate facilitators, we're dedicated to bringing you powerful principles to fuel your leadership journey and personal growth. And whether you're an entrepreneur just starting out, or a new leader taking the reins, or a seasoned pro looking to redefine your skills, this show is for you. We'll be diving deep into personal growth strategies to help you strengthen your mindset and leadership abilities. But before we jump in, a huge shout out to all of our amazing listeners. Thank you for joining us each and every week. We wouldn't be here without your incredible support. Now, let's get down to business and help you unlock your full potential. Good morning, Ernalita. How are you today, partner?
Good morning, partner. Good morning, everyone. This is your co-host, Ernie Dacumos. I am doing great this morning with multiple emotions coming along, but it's completely fine. I am excited for our guest today this morning. How are you, partner?
I'm doing great. I am doing wonderful. I am as well excited about our guest today. And Ernie, I want you to take just a minute and tell us a little bit about him.
It would be my great pleasure. Our guest today is coming from the greatness. Wait, greatness, dot, dot, dot.
Dot.
With his phenomenal bio partner, I cannot believe we even have here. We even have him here. Our guest is a father, comic, speaker, writer, and soldier with 3 tours of duty in Iraq. He is also a lifetime stutterer. He is a certified John Maxwell Leadership Speaker. Recently, Alabama Magazine selected him as one of Alabama's top 40 men and women over the age of 40 whose lives and careers are characterized by great levels of giving and achievement. He was also named as one of the 15 Southern stand-up comedians that will make you laugh till you cry by It's a Southern Thing. And GI Jobs magazine listed him as one of 15 veterans taking the comedy world by storm. Isn't that greatness, partner?
Oh my gosh, it's unreal. That's
Yes.
unreal.
So everyone, please help us welcome Mr. Jody Fuller to the green room.
Jody, good to have you here. So glad you're here today.
Hey, I'm so glad to be here too. I appreciate y'all having me here. It's exciting.
Oh, it's exciting. We're excited to have you here. Ever since the time we first met you, I've been excited to have this show because Jody, this is incredible. A speaker, a writer, a warrior, a
Mm,
soldier, a comic. Oh my gosh, it's just, I mean, you're just loaded up with all these different things. And I know that you were an officer. You were an officer in the
Yeah, but but
military.
but hey, I appreciate all the kind words, but you missed the most important thing. I'm a dad.
Uh-oh.
yes.
You're a dad.
Oh,
That's
I'm a
awesome.
dad.
That's
I
awesome.
love
That's
that.
awesome. That's awesome. We're just going to dive in, Jody. I want you to tell us a little bit about your story. I know you that you're a lifetime stutterer too, and I know that's held you back in something, or it tried to hold you back, and you would not let it. Tell us a little bit about your story, Jody.
Yeah. So I do stutter. So you might want to let the engineer know that we may run overtime today. Uh,
We got you, brother. We got you.
yeah. Yeah, I first of all have to start before I do anything else. I wouldn't be here literally and maybe figuratively without my mother. And today is her birthday. So my
Happy
mother,
birthday.
I'm
Happy
not going to tell you how
birthday,
old she is, but I'm
wise
52. So
man.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
wise
But
man, wise man.
so happy
No.
birthday to my mother. So
Yeah,
appreciate
that's
that.
wonderful.
What's her
Yeah.
name?
So her name is Janet.
Janet.
Happy birthday,
And
Miss Janet.
and she's pretty awesome. She's a wonderful grandmother. She raised 2 boys on her own. You'll hear the story about my father passed away when I was 8 years old, and she raised 2 boys. And let me tell you, we were all boys too.
Mm-hmm,
No doubt
mm-hmm,
about it. And so
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
she did great. So I just wanted to, as the kids say, give her a shout out.
There you go.
Mm.
I don't know if they still say that or not, but I thought that was important. But so she's a big part of my story because again, I wouldn't be here without her. But so you asked, so I am from Alabama, which is the best state. If you don't believe me, pull out your road atlas. It's the first one in there.
Yeah.
And I love how I grew up. I had a great family. Life happens. My parents divorced when I was 2, but was still with both my parents. He was blind. He was a juvenile diabetic, and he lost his eyesight when he was 27. And he went to the Alabama Institute for the Deaf and Blind in Talladega, which is, if you think Helen Keller, that's where she went. So he was blind, and he learned a program up there called the Business Enterprise Program. And that's where he learned to service vending machines. And when he got through up there, he moved to Montgomery, which I'm from Opelika, so is about 45 minutes to an hour down the road. But he learned to service vending machines up there, and he did that for a lot of the government buildings in Montgomery. So my brother and I spent a lot of time with him, and we got to see our blind father go to work every day. So that set such a great example for me and my brother, seeing that early on in life. And then my mother, to get back to her for a second, she worked in a box factory for 37 years. And the whole 18 years I lived under her roof, she missed work one day. So again, she set a great example. They were great leaders. As a kid, I didn't think, so they're just mom and daddy. But now I look back, like they were great leaders in what they did. But my dad, even though he was blind, he was a great dad, and that's what I try to be. He taught me you wanted me to tell this story, so I'm going to throw this one out there. So he taught me to ride a bicycle. But let me just tell you, when you cross a blind father, a stuttering kid, and bicycle lessons, bad things are bound to happen. I remember we got a bike for Christmas one year. I got one. My brother had one. He already knew how to ride one. He's two years older. And Daddy had one hand on the steering wheel, the handlebars, the other hand on the seat, and he's pushing me so proud, just as fast as he can, and I'm trying to get out the word stop, but before I could, I was face first in the sticker bushes. But you know what? There's a silver lining to every story. There's a lesson to be learned, and it's this: I learned to ride that bike real fast.
I bet you did.
Yeah.
I bet you did.
But he had a great sense of humor. Also, I'm constantly meeting people who knew my dad, and they tell me how funny he was. And I remember I got him good one time. So being in Alabama, you have to choose from day one, Auburn or Alabama. It's just the way it is. And I'm an Auburn fan. And for people around the world who may not know, those are 2 colleges here in Alabama. It's a big rivalry in all sports. And every year at Christmas, my mom would give me $20 to buy my blind Alabama fan father a Christmas present. And I remember I went to the department store and I bought my blind Alabama fan father this awesome Auburn sweatshirt. And he wore that around. He wore that around for 3 weeks, saying "Roll Tide." Like I ought to be ashamed of myself, but I was not. Again, he had a good sense of humor, and there's so many things that he did for me that that I do for my daughter now. I like to ride her. I love to ride her around on my shoulders, just like my dad did me, But that probably also explains my fear of ceiling fans.
Yes.
Hey, wrong way, Daddy. Wrong way. So
Oh
as
my
you can tell,
goodness.
I had an interesting childhood, and my brother, who's 2 years older than I am, he just turned 55 in January. Well, January 4th. He stuttered too, and I remember when he turned about 12, he just quit stuttering, and I was like, "Yeah, 2 more years," But here I am, still good, going strong, and I wouldn't change it for a thing. I always say we all have something. We all have
Yep.
something, and whatever it is, you have to embrace that. I've been blessed to be published 11 times by Chicken Soup for the Soul, and one of my stories was in a book called Think Positive for Kids. And my story was called Embracing My Uniqueness, which it was specifically about my stuttering, but that could absolutely be applied to anybody. Because again, we all have something. Everybody has something. And
Yes.
and when it's a perceived, or you can call it what you want to call it, a disability or whatnot, people want to see it as a curse. And I did for a while. I mean, I'm like anybody else. I was made fun of all the time. But
Well, I was going to ask you that, Jody. I was going to ask
yeah,
you that. But when you was growing up, I'm curious. As a child, did you find that difficult because of your stuttering? Did kids make fun of you? How did you deal with that growing up as a child?
well, it for a lot of times, like most kids, I go home crying. But I, it's funny. And I don't mean haha, but it's at the time, but it's something I don't look back on and think about a whole lot. Because I tell you, one of the guys who made fun of me more than anybody else, this guy, let me tell you, my daughter was born 7.5 weeks early in the back of an ambulance on Friday, October the 13th. And we spent 29 days in NICU. This guy was the first guy to call me, and I still have his voicemail saved, because just out of the blue. And he's a good friend, but not one of my best friends. So for him to call me like that, I look back on that. But it was in the eighth grade. I always remember, and I've said this 1,000 times. The eighth grade is when I said, you know what, this doesn't define me, but that is definitely a characteristic that makes me stand out. So I'm going to embrace this. And I had a teacher named Miss Leonard, and she knows this. I've told her 1,000 times. And whenever you get published by Chicken Soup for the Soul, you get 10 copies of the book. And my first story that I had published was called A Lifetime of Stuttering. And I met her at Starbucks, and I gave her a copy of the very first book, and I signed it. And because she was the first teacher to hold my feet to the fire, and she would make me read in class all the time. She would make me,
right?
Yeah. And a lot of teachers would try to coddle me, and I can appreciate that, but that's not the real world that we live in. And I appreciate her doing that. And so I would give these presentations and these oral reports, and you remember standing in class doing oral reports, having to do that. And it was cool because it would be like, okay, on Monday we're doing Ernie and Steve and Chad. On Tuesday we're doing Daryl and Brad and Adrian. On Wednesday we're doing Jody.
It was
Thursday, Jody continues. and Ryan and Shay, but I was able to add humor to those. And,
Yes.
that was one of my tools was being able to add humor. And as long as I was able to add humor, man, I mean, they went great. And I was able to carry that on to this day. And I speak a lot, and adding
Yeah.
humor in there, using that as a tool, because again, we all have something. We all
Yep.
have these gifts that the good Lord gives us, and we just have to figure out how to use it.
Yes.
And okay. It's been a blessing. And again, I grew up, we didn't have a whole lot, but we had everything we needed. And my dad, I told y'all he died when I was 8 years old. But I always say that life is not about how long you're here. It's about what you do while you're here.
Yep.
And
That's right.
he died
That's
in
right.
1981, and I still I learned so much from him. And there are days I may not want to get up and do what I have to do, but I think about what he did. I think about my mother. All those days she didn't want to have to get up and go work in that box factory. She got up and she did it. They set the example. They led the way. What does John say? Leaders know the way. Leaders
the
show the
way.
way. Leaders
Yep.
go the way. Right. So I
Yep.
was blessed to have great parents in my life, and I wouldn't change anything for anything. And I thank the teachers that led me the way, and I wouldn't change. Do you have any questions? I know we're about to go to break here in a minute.
We just let you speak, huh? Well, I do have a very important question that I'd like to ask, and I will leave this as a cliffhanger to the next segment. And I am sure the listeners caught on this. You were in the military, and as Steve mentioned, you were an officer in the military. So I would like, when we return, we will have to take a quick break. Jody just shared his childhood and how his parents inspired him to become a better leader today as a father himself. When we return, we will discuss how the journey of being in the military shaped Jody and how his journey looked like. We will